Good morning. On behalf of the Fundación Reverdedesierto, we welcome you to the Forum on Initiatives and Solutions to address the textiles challenge of Tarapacá on to celebrate UN International Day on Zero Waste. We are here to address the textile challenges in Tarapacá. This meeting seeks to open paths towards a just transition from linear economy towards circular models, addressing territory-based waste and environmental regeneration. Beyond sustainability, the environment and environmental justice, our country and region is built among all of us. The crisis lacks humanity. Our paths cross again today. Although we talk about many technical initiatives, we need to harness this opportunity to try and have a more resilient, fair, and sustainable community. We need the wisdom and knowledge to bring about changes. Let's harness these spaces to think what each one can contribute. We thank each of the institutions and individuals here today. Without any further ado, we will start with the presentations with uh, Francisco Olivares, who will make a presentation. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to talk about progress in the field of textiles within the Ministry of Environment and as SEREMI, Ministry of the Environment Regional Secretariat. Uh, After my presentation, another colleague will speak to you. But first, we would like to contextualize what's happening here. There was an issue that had local effects because we've experienced this with micro textile dumps. But now we are addressing a larger scale within fast fashion. In this regard, well, people are using more and discarding more, particularly in European countries and in North America. But this has had an impact on us because we have generated a market that, although it empowers local families like in La Quebradilla, it has entailed that we've ended up in areas in which there is pollution, and our geography extends this even further. As Ministry of the Environment, we're going to talk about progress made in the field of textiles at the national and regional levels. And we are going to get started with actions at the ministerial level, which are the most important. We have Law 2920 regarding extended producer responsibility. Overall, what this means is that producers or whoever import products to our country must take responsibility once the life cycle of the product comes to an end. This step forward is very important because thus the producer legally takes responsibility for his or her waste. Now, based on our current problems, for 2025, we are bringing in textiles. We had tires before, packaging, batteries, among others. Textiles were not included, but this law allows its inclusion. And this means we are going to have greater control and traceability on waste. And this translates into establishing recycling targets. There will be oversight of all this and punishment if the rules are not fulfilled. So think it's necessary to continue moving forward. And we have also an agreement on clean production for first-hand garments. This is a public-private partnership. That means that a company comes into an agreement with the public sector and we work together to see what we want to achieve in the field of sustainability and also regarding environmental well-being. And it ends up in, or it addresses first-hand garments at the retail level, although the issue isn't uh, retail, particularly in this region. It's an important basis because it has an impact also at the national level. Falabella, for instance, they are committed to this topic, and this agreement helps companies to get ready once it's mandatory to recycle these textile wastes. This agreement has been enforced for 1 year, and we have 13 retail companies already in the agreement. At the ministerial level, we also have circular economy strategies for textiles seeking to reduce the use of textiles and increase their appraisal. And this strategy is interesting because it's going to finance different initiatives that we are still missing through financing to municipalities. We can have local infrastructure and machinery for the textile sector, a program for eradicating and preventing illegal dumping sites too. We are going to take a look at that when we talk about regional actions as Seremi in, in the environment. Then uh, import of textiles. This has to do with the free trade area, how all this these clothes come in bulk. Another of the matters is that we are going to hold consulting services so that when there is this when there's a catastrophe, there's usually donation of lots of textiles. And in the case of Valparaiso, there was we had so many garments coming in, not all of them in a good condition. And this then entailed a problem for dumps. We are working on a protocol to have guidance on how we will manage this in case of catastrophes, how we're going to manage donations more specifically. As to ministerial regional secretariat actions at the local level, when all this happened with the textile waste dumps, we carried out multi-sectoral work. We established intersectoral working groups to work not only at the ministerial level, but also with customs, with the carabineros, with the IRS, and with municipalities, among others, to be able to work on the emergency. We worked under a law, uh, under Law 2879, that instructs municipalities to issue regulations on transport. So this allows us to better follow up on transport from Iquique at the local level through to other dump site areas, and we implemented oversight on those vehicles transporting some sort of waste. And then we had different undertakings, uh, one Mujer de la Casa, for instance. We also must promote actions within the economic sector. The Secretariat of the Environment has promoted through these clean activity agreements with Zofri Free Trade Area of Iquique and the users. that we've promoted actions because they are the ones that bring in the textiles so as to have good practices in place and have more responsible actions. We've been able to enhance the horizon, and the free trade area users had a very important initiative put in place, uh, which is a textile waste recycling facility. This is a milestone because it won't only deal with addressing or treating waste, but also doing away with illegal dumping so that the region can recycle, that we have the possibility of addressing this and not sending this to Santiago. We usually send waste to Santiago, and this produces CO2 emissions, for instance. So clearly, this will address consumption, which is what I buy, the amount of garments I want or I have or want to have. But there must be a way to treat all this. So we also have mattresses and insulation for homes in this project. Then we are preparing a study on problems regarding second-hand clothing in our region. This is based on the circular economy strategy for eradicating illegal dumping of textiles. We want to analyze uh, provisions in place today, what's the waste generated, the volume there is, and what are the potential sites where waste could be dumped uh, or where they could be generated, and how to address all this based on the local reality. These are the main actions we have. And in summary, what we expect ultimately is to have legal restrictions on the import of clothes. Don't want to put a halt on our regional economy, but we want it to be duly regulated and that not any kind of textile waste comes in that can then turn into waste automatically. Then we are carrying out citizen education regarding the use of textiles, and we also address education at the corporate level. We have a commitment to talk about extended producer responsibility, and since textiles will be mandatory, we have to continue with this commitment to manage the products that the producers bring and also standardize selection procedures. The garments that I bring in, what can be used, what cannot, to have standards to know what's in a good condition and what is not, and start placing restrictions on this. Then uh, generating management systems. We are moving forward with these management system allowing the collection of industrial and household waste in the field of textiles. And then, well, we are hoping to sign a clean production agreement with the companies. It's a voluntary agreement where the companies say they will collaborate in the recycling of textiles, and then the final installation of Bayram that will carry out recycling in our region. Finally, we are including priority products that are mandatory within the law, and we want to conclude this diagnostic study to have strategies that are in line with the guidelines required by the region nowadays to face this problem, not only as to generation, but also regarding responsible consumption as individuals. And that is it on my side. I wonder if you have any questions. I'll now give the floor to Mr. Lima from the Environment Region Secretariat in Tarapacá. Well, I'd like to convey that the CIREMI at the environmental level are addressing environmental problems in the region, and textiles is an issue. There are several activities that, and many people are trying to help out. Well, the sound is very poor right now. We should learn how to recycle clothes. And people here in the northern area are addressing this issue of clothes. Sorry, we are not hearing well at all. It's too choppy. Textiles is a topic no doubt related to waste. We are worried about that indeed at the municipal level. We are working with the government on this. We are taking measures in this regard, and we are analyzing the issue of drought too. I'm sorry, but we can't even guess what he's saying at times. Le voy a escribir.
When I was young, I didn't really have access to information, but now everybody has information, and we have the curiosity to learn more about this and to see how this can be improved. So thank you. And I understand that the Centenario School has an upcycling school, and many of the students are there, participating there, are here present today, and are interested in this. Is there any other question? Can you hear me? I think we would start in the second semester, second half of the year. We're working on the terms of reference, and there's going to be a bidding process for a consulting company to perform the study. And we would start in the second half of the year. The question was not, we were not able to hear the question from the booth. Well, the methodology was prepared, but it's been reviewed now together with Santiago, and they have to tell us what is missing in that methodology. You will be able to see the methodology after the bidding terms, because the terms of reference are going to include the methodology to be applied. I cannot give you dates because we're still working on the terms of reference, but I can tell you that we would start the bidding terms or the bidding process, excuse me, in the second half of the year. Any other question? We need a microphone because there's interpretation. So please speak into the microphone. Can you move to the microphone, closer to the microphone, please? Basically, I understand that the textile flow is constant, right? It's an everyday thing. Textiles are arriving every day. And is there any measure of that flow? And if there is a measure, are any actions being done to prevent those textiles for continuing to come in? Yes, we do have a measure. Seremi Health is the one that has the log or the record of that. But regarding prevention, well, there is no legal provision that states that those textiles cannot come in. Well, but I was wondering if there was an agency or an oversight institution. Well, we are working in a multi-sectoral working group. You know, the customs, transportation. We are part of the working group, but it's not possible to prevent the flow from increasing. But what we're proposing now is that we need to have more standards and higher standards so that the flow decreases, right? That's what we're looking for nowadays, because this is a complex area, because it's a source of work. And that's why it's so difficult to work in this area. I I think you said that there was going to be a recycling plant, and I imagine that that is public, excuse me, private investment, right? Yes. And so when is this going to be commissioned? When is this plant going to start operations? Well, one of the problems we have is permits and licenses, but this plant is actually operating under a number that mm, means that they don't have to have a license from the environmental impact service. And so there were some difficulties, and one of them was to obtain access to the territory. But in the audit of this plant is going very, very fast, and it's an alto auspicio. And even if you drive through, you can see that the, there is like a fence around it, and so it's visible and they're operational. Maria Luisa, do you have a question? This should be the last one, okay? Because we have 3 more questions on Zoom. Are there any actions that we can conduct in schools? Because I'm a teacher, I'm a natural science teacher in school. So are there any actions that we can implement? Perhaps Seremi or the Environmental Regional Secretariat wants to answer this question. And also we would like to say that we have certain certifications. Well, there is a strategy on textiles that underwent a public hearing last year. And so there are more than 20 measures that we are trying to implement. This is short term, right? We're talking about 2 years, for example. But now, if we analyze the actions of this private company that is working in the tall area, hmm, the inputs for them are textiles. And so in agriculture, for example, some waste is generated, and sometimes they are going to dump sites or they're given other uses that are not the best ones. But when this starts generating work or income, all textile waste need to be collected by the government. And I think that schools would be essential to foster a change in habits, for example, so that yeah, young students become more careful, become more thorough, and they can tell, for example, their family members that they have to perhaps separate waste or sort waste. And so strong actions are going to come from the schools. They're going to be the ones that would foster this. There's a project of a company that is thinking about starting operations by mid year. Okay. And in connection with this, in the Centenario School, there's a group of students that last year collected clothes in their homes. For the most part, we have people that work in the mobile fairs. They went and they collected inputs, and we gathered 86 kilos of denim. And this was a project of students, and students made bags or tote bags and duffel bags that are used by the children to go to the gym, for example. And this worked very well. So we hope that this school year we are able to move forward and collect even more garments. And something that I wanted to mention was please be brief with questions and with answers because we still have 4 more speakers and we don't have much more time. So question, answer, and we'll move forward, okay? Okay, one last question. How can we help to raise awareness or to help the decrease textile waste? Well, by reusing textiles, reusing garments, you know, before you would have hand-me-downs, right? But now hand-me-downs are not so popular anymore in families, but those things are important. And also having an awareness of the clothes that we are going to wear. Sometimes we want to be fashionable or trendy, but this is very brief. And then when fashion ends, and we have a bunch of clothes that are going to end up in the garbage can at home. So, talking about awareness raising, right? You are the future generations, and you deserve to have an environment that is free from pollution. And so you can also work on sorting waste. Now we're talking about textiles, but at home you have many other kinds of waste. And we have clean points in the city that where you can take all your recyclables. Thank you for the questions and the answers. We have questions on Zoom. Matias has a question for the Ministry of the Environment regarding legal restrictions to imports. What are categories 1 and 2? Categories 1 and 2 are class 1 and class 2. There's a textile strategy And it's not just for imported garments. Class 1 and 2 are going to be the only categories to come in or to go in. This also wants to include other textiles. Mm. I'm sorry, the sound is very choppy and we can't get the full sentences. So when we when we have imports from Europe, categories 1 and categories 2 are certified. And in my opinion, non-governmental organizations are going to have to establish that those garments actually do fall under categories 1 and 2. Just to add, currently the package receives or includes everything, not just categories 1 and 2. And so these are categories that are given to the garments when they are sold, but they don't come in divided into categories. What's your name? Oh, well, Francisco Olivares. Could you enlarge on the movement of textiles toward or to Santiago? What happens is that the waste that we want to recycle gets to Santiago. This is what we want to avoid. We want to have infrastructure to manage waste in all the regions, and Bayram is going to help us do that. There's another issue, and that is that there's a national initiative regarding recycling, but we already have one or a couple more.
And it says, how can we become a part of the recycling community in a more active manner? Do you have any volunteer program? This question is by Priscilla Bear. Although we don't have a volunteers program, we do have uh, financing. That's a good option for us to increase awareness raising regarding textile waste. And through our training, when we are invited by industries that want to move forward regarding the ERP law, or better say EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. Thank you, and a round of applause for them. Please be as brief as possible regarding your presentations and also questions and answers. Now I'm going to give the floor to the Mr. Julio Gandija from Zofri. I'm going to talk a bit about what we are doing as Zofri or Free Trade Area of Iquique in the region to support our users so that textile waste can be managed with better awareness, and that there be different instances so that it doesn't go to illegal dumps. Within the initiative, we have our collaborators within the RFD, or Recycling Fast Design, supported by Corfo. We are collaborators. A week ago, we launched this initiative where we went to an importer, and he showed the uh, participants. I mean, there were 15 couples, and they're going to design fashion through textile waste. There'll be a fashion show soon to show what the designers have made. This was held in Cavancha last year, and this year there are important models that will be participating. Well, the designers and craftspersons visited the textile users, and we went to where they generated the bundles of first, second, or third categories. The purpose is to integrate sustainable practices into the local industry and to give opportunities to different local entrepreneurs so that they can design their fashion and present it at the international level. As Zofri, on the social media, we send out the program so that people can register. Uh, it is executed by Innova Global. We'll hold a seminar on the 8th and 9th in the Zofri Conventions Building. We'll be sending out the invitation soon. Another important aspect we're working on as a free trade area is not the first-hand textile waste, but it's third or fourth category waste, in fact. Now, what are we doing? We are obtaining users' consent for the time being. And apart from the Bayram Group, which is a company that nowadays is in charge of textile recycling, we have this APL. They will be receiving textile waste so as to manage it properly. Then we have companies like Americani, Marifet, Casa de Ropa, Sarde, among others, that have wanted to join. And they've been joining this APL that wants to include traceability of the second-hand clothes waste. Now, Zofri supports users so that when the EPR law is fully in force, users already be meeting these regulations. It's not easy to get started with this. It happened with tires, with packaging. It hasn't been easy to meet the goals because this came up unexpectedly and everybody had to start from scratch. But now we are going to help users not to start from scratch. We have a company that's going to be responsible for the waste. And then we'll have training too. They'll know what to do with the waste. They can register on the platform too. So Sofri is training its users to make them more sustainable. And what's good too is that they've all undertaken the commitment to do this. Now, how are we going to implement this APL through our trade association? We are going to activate it so that we can manage all this waste. Another important aspect is the free trade area. Softly, we have several activities throughout the year working with different actors, entrepreneurs, public companies, Secretariat of the Environment. We work through conferences, training sessions, not only for textiles, but for other waste. And in May, we'll have the second session for shared style. You'll be able to take your garment to Sofri And depending on it, the condition in which it is, you can exchange it for another. This shared style is organized by the commercial engineering students, supported by Zofri. In its first version, it had the support of different associations like Circularte and others, and the free trade area users. This is an event that promotes the exchange of garments, and it helps to foster the circular economy and sustainability within the local community. The next event will take place on the 9th of May. Last year, we received the customers with their garments, and they would give it to the university students, and according to the condition in which it was in, you would to get a token and could choose another garment from those hanging on the railings. So you could thus exchange it, but this time we are going to hold a circular fair. We have we'll have containers for recycling purposes. Certain garments will go to Bayram, and then if you have a garment that's not in a good condition, and if you and you want to have it fixed, there will be people there with sewing machines to help you out. If you don't want to throw it out but only fix it, you'll find support there at this event. And then there, there'll be different entrepreneurs selling to their clothes. So we want it to be a circular fair. You can have your garment fixed, or you can send it into the waste container, whatever you wish. And within that, we will, as I say, have these containers in a specific sector so that you can leave your clothes there, and then Bayram will be recycling them. They work directly with us. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much, Julio. Are there questions? Please break the ice. Since we have interpreters online, please use a mic. Where will you be publishing this invitation, or how will you be sending them out? The invitation? Well, we have the 15 couples already for the designers, but about 2 weeks before the shared event, we will be publishing on social media. It'll be around 2 weeks before. The Zofri social media and others in Tarapacá. A hand for Julio, please. And now we give the floor to Reverdedesierto, Environmental Education and Biodiversity, Paula Castillo, who is the Vice President of the Foundation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to share a project that we have been working on since last year. This is the first time we presented. It's about community use of textiles for environmental education and for mm, becoming aware of our biodiversity. It's about the chungungo, which is a black swallow, and the flamingo. So we want to focus on the endangered species, and they're facing dangers because of the lack of the pollution and the loss of their habitat. And we can see on the images, we went to the jeans dumping site, and then through RDA jeans, we were able to sort of show the entire process. Let me explain this with a photo. So this initiative was a strategy for territory-based awareness raising, which focuses on the importance of our coastal biodiversity. And we want to make visible the chungungo as an emblematic species of the jeopardized coastal biodiversity, and then design and implement a textile garment line for environmental volunteers, and also to generate spaces to share learning regarding biodiversity and the challenges of climate change. For example, when we see this photo of the flamingo that lives in the coastal areas. And so the idea is to strengthen the sense of belonging to the territory through the recognition of the local species. And here you can see the garments that the animals are wearing. And I'm going to show a video for you to see how this started, how this project started. And also, just to wrap up, I'd like to say that the idea behind this project is not just to foster participation in the activities of environmental restoration, but we want this model to become a symbol of community work. For example, local clubs, educational um, centers, and the use of garment in schools or in extracurricular activities could perhaps foster education and the connection with the land, with the territory from the early stages of lives. And we want to develop a collective environmental conscience, and also for other associations and groups to be able to use this method in jobs that are related to collective work to promote dialogue between traditional knowledge. And because many of our mothers, our parents, our fathers at home use the sewing machine, they know how, but sometimes we don't dare include that practice. But many people do have sewing machines at home, but we don't give the opportunities to solve this problem based in our homes. And that's why we want to promote this system so that we can have recycling workshops where the textiles are revalued to be able to promote circular economy and to strengthen the productive capacities of the different neighborhoods or towns. First, I had never come to this dump site, and I have contradictory feelings because we're mixed feelings. I found a fascinating world, but at the same time, it was sad to see how our mountains have become a dump site because underneath our genes, we also found waste, burnt. That means that many people have come already to leave things here. And the idea is to take advantage of the uh, skills that RR Genes has. Here we have in the Alto Hospicio landfill, and denim sometimes includes plastic. And so we want to take advantage of this input to be able to develop organizations and to decontaminate this dump site. This is one of the denim dump sites in Alto Hospicio, and we want to decontaminate our desert to give a chance to these garments to be able to become other products that can perhaps contribute to society, and also having a global perspective from the local environment. This is a problem that doesn't affect only the desert, but it has to do with the supply chain. And here, R Genes, the company, is trying to provide this message, to deliver this message with our project and through our networks to be able to conclude or do away with this worldwide problem that is affecting Alto Hospicio now. Weaving the future, texting, textiles for communities. In the heart of Tarapacá, the community has found its own response to the disposable fashion crisis, transform clothing into a symbol of identity. And we made ourselves a key question. Instead of becoming waste, can clothing become a tool? This effort has reduced the number of textiles in land sites, and it also has opened a path to innovation and sustainable fashion. We built a transformation model that shows that this is doable. This is working with the community and for the community. So clothing is no longer a product for consumption. It's an empowerment tool and a yarn that joins communities. So that was a summary of the project. As I said at the beginning of the project, we have a sort of community solution to include textiles to our group and also to strengthen the identity and to use these animals, the Andean flamingo that is endangered because of the extraction of water in the mining or in the mines in the northern part of Chile, in addition to the Black Sea swallow that is also endangered because of the light pollution of Alto Hospicio and Iquique. And then chungungo, which is an animal that is also that also lives in the coastal areas and is endangered because of an excessive fishing. And so the food that chungungo had before nowadays is very scarce. In addition to the threat it feels because of the fishing nets, and many times this animal gets tangled and dies in our coasts without us even realizing that. So I wanted to share this because it has a sort of purpose of protecting biodiversity and including circular economy. Our main focus is to raise awareness about the problems of our biodiversity so that we can make these problems visible. So if you have a cell phone, read this QR code in order to follow us on Instagram. And if you want to make a contribution, of course, all contributions are important. You can make a voluntary contribution so that we can conduct more of these actions to be able to continue protecting the biodiversity and to support awareness raising about biodiversity and the impact of industries that sometimes endanger and extinguish species, such as the ones that we showed you. Thank you. Thank you, Paula. Are there any questions or comments? Please come close to the microphone if you do. You were mentioning jeans that were dumped, and so how can we help you reuse, recycle those jeans, and how can we take this to other countries so that we can have a joint effort among other countries as well? Thank you for your question, Matthias. Well, I support this motion. Well, commitment is the key. Commitment with information that we receive because we see information on Instagram, Google, Facebook. We receive information as students, and many times we like something or we mention something, but we don't take responsibility. But now you have a new model that we showed you, a circular economy for community use. And so rather than industrializing the model, we need to take actions with our own hands. What Victoria is showing you is a very pretty design. And I'd like to ask you for a round of applause to the designer, Tita. If you see in the back, there are some stamps, and this was done with a stamping mechanism that uses serigraphy, which is a more a more ecological method. So take all the information that you have and raise awareness about it according to your needs. The design that Victoria is showing is related to our need to be in touch with tools to be able to include things or to hold pencils, for example. So I think that in order to answer your question, Matthias, how can you contribute? Well, by becoming responsible for the information that you have and cooperating with the people that are next to you, because this was done together with Tita. She's our local textile expert. And at home, you have your families, you have your parents, and they probably know how to sew. And if you need perhaps a certain piece of clothing, perhaps you can talk to your family members, to your perhaps aunts or uncles, and replicate this model and make it part of your life. So take responsibility of the information that you have now and implement this model because you have a perfect model, a perfect example that this works. So if we have a community need and if we have information, then we can take actions as a community in a responsible way. Another question? I wanted to share some information that I learned in a seminar that I was part of. And I'm really sorry there's a big echo and we can't really hear from the booth. A software was developed that is about to receive a patent to do away with textile waste by using to the fullest the specific product. So this is a very special time regarding technology. And therefore, I encourage you to learn and to study. We're talking about Francisca Bacardo, and she is studying how through a software program you can maximize recycling so that you can use products to the fullest. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. And there's a lot of history that can be helpful to you. Seremi is leading the change that we need. Any other question or comment?
Good morning, everyone. I sew garments and I was rebaptized by them. You don't need great knowledge about fashion or how to use a sewing machine to create. All what I did was done with no knowledge about measurements. I didn't know how to sew a dress or trousers, but I managed to do it. You just need to create, take a garment, a piece of clothing, and see what you can make out of it. That garment will talk to you somehow and say, well, I may turn into a bag or any other thing. I mean, that we have artificial intelligence and umpteen things, but creativity is singular, is unique. I chose a name for my small business, and this forum is very moving for me because it takes me back into the past and brings me to the present. My mother also used to sew. We need the sewing machine. If that doesn't work, we can't do anything. We need, above all, that and creativity, not very specific knowledge. So that is what I wanted to mention. You don't need any knowledge to be able to sew. There's one last question here. We can, no, his voice is so faint, but I think he said, how can we send our information to other countries? I think that right now we're reaching out to other countries. We need to carry out outreach actions. Most of the time we are doing that. Personally, I use my social media to disseminate our work that's really important, but sometimes we don't take the time to disseminate it. People overall really consume a lot of knowledge, but don't post that much. So I had my first mobile at the age of 14, 15. And at the age of 30, I think that I can really use that mobile phone to share information. It's not only for consumption purposes that one has a mobile phone, it's also for sharing information and sending this information to other countries entails making it visible. You can create an account on Instagram, disseminate what you're doing, look at the comments. People will sometimes criticize, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. But what one is doing is being done with love, and you really have to believe firmly in what you do and have social media, have networks, because some people are even fearful of sharing their ideas, thinking that someone may steal it from them. But that is not so. I mean, people might join your idea. Don't limit yourself because, or else you'll never implement it. And then, since you didn't firmly believe in your idea, they might steal it, but you must take responsibility for that knowledge and really persevere. Right now, we have an international forum with interpreters translating into English, so our word will get out to other places. We've got to generate instances of collaboration and bring about collaborative action so that your message reaches out to others and that you can cooperate with other people too. So really collaborate and act. Now we give the floor to the next panel. I'll introduce Angela from Desierto Vestido or Dressed Deserts. Hi, I'm going to introduce Desierto Vestido, which is a pioneer organization in researching and documenting the textile waste issue since 2020. We've been working as an organization together with Bastian and Juan Carlos, and we've done a great job regarding research. We've gone out to the field, we've attended meetings, and we've visited different parts of Alto Hospicio. They're not only dumps in Alto Hospicio, but also elsewhere. So what we've done is to carry out research work. And we've realized they're not only micro dumps, but also macro dumps and also incineration areas. Throughout all this time, we started by looking into the matter and hearing from public and private uh, institutions and the authorities to see how we could collaborate, not only looking at negative aspects, but also seeing how we could be a part of the solution to incentivize the community, children, youth, university students, uh, all those in housewives and those in the households. I mean, the main problem is in the Alto Hospicio district. We've carried out educational campaigns at different schools. So far, we've done it in the Alto Hospicio region, but over time, hopefully, we'll reach out to other schools to be able to give children the tools so that they become a part of the solution. At these educational sessions, not only have we taught upcycling, but also we've held workshops where children who live in the Alto Hospicio community go about this. I mean, there are sort of outlets here too, and people go and rescue garments, but some are torn or they can't be resewn because they don't have the necessary tools, so they accumulate these garments and then they become an area with uh, mice or flies and are a source of infection. And then they decide to burn it because the gases from this waste then go into the air too, and they run the risk of their homes catching fire too. So this issue is very sad indeed. So we were able to come into contact with the different points of view and thus give them the tools so that they could do something and be a part of the solution. We've also had art interventions with national collaborators, with Francisca Gajardo. We've held upcycling workshops with them, and Ian Berry, who's an artist that paints and makes collages, and we were able to work uh, in a workshop so that this artist could carry out interventions. And with Gajardo, we went to Alto Hospicio uh, together with what we call Circular Desert and all the textile women from the Circular Economy Association. We trained 22 women and we were able to give them textiles to do their works of art and thus use these clothes for another purpose. We've also run fashion shows. We're a non-profit organization and self-managed organization, so the fashion shows maybe haven't uh, had such a huge impact than those that do it with the support of other institutions. During the Tarapacá more sustainability show. Well, we've had designers, people making accessories, and we also carried out other kinds of interventions. We brought a heap of clothes and put it there in the middle so people could look at it during the fashion show to see the problem that it brings about. In this video that you are watching, this is the Atacama Fashion Week in collaboration with an advertising agency from Brazil. And this was shown across the world because thanks to this fashion show is one of the biggest textile dumps that caught fire in 2022. We were able to show this upcycling mm, or these are upcycling garments. And we took these clothes across the world to shows in museums or exhibitions in museums too, for people to reflect and see where their clothes end up. I mean, these clothes come from Europe or the US. They come to our country, and as agents of change, we are showing that this is not waste, that many things can be done, and hopefully people on the other side of the world will become aware of what overconsumption and overproduction leads to. There are a lot of ads on the media for you to buy more clothes, but we don't necessarily have to buy new clothes to look good. We can transform what we have in our closet so that it be environmentally friendly and responsible.
This is our last project, and the project is intended, well, this is a pilot project because last month, actually a week ago or 2 weeks ago, this became viral, but we were working on it for a while already. We were able to rescue some clothes from these micro dumps, clothes or garments that were in good shape, not garments, well, garments that need perhaps small repairs and that they can be reused with the idea of promoting this circular economy. And not only for the people here to obtain those clothes, but for these clothes to be able to be taken anywhere around the world. So it's an international project. The truth is that we had a very good response in the very small time frame, and the cost for these garments was zero. People had to just pay for shipping, and we ran out of clothes. And so we believe that this is a very important step to be able to continue cleaning our desert because this problem changed throughout time. Before, we would accumulate clothes in places that were far away from our homes, but then the community grew, and these sectors were next to the homes or the communities. And so it was just not accumulated, but also clothes were either buried or burnt. So we think that this is not a way to solve the problem. That's why we're rescuing clothes from these sites to give them a second use. And not only for local circular economy, but for an international circular economy so that more people can join from different parts of the world. Because many children would say, okay, how can we reach other parts of the world, right? How can we use emotion for the people or with the people that are in Brazil, in Europe, in England? They feel responsible because these clothes come from those countries. So if we make this visible, if we show them how or what a reality is like, then they will feel they need to do something. So through this campaign, we invited them to become part of the solution and to rescue these clothes because it's not just buying one more piece of clothing, it's to rescue a piece of clothing, right? And we did so well that we continue, we were thinking of insisting on this. We want to grow our community and not to have only second-hand garments, but we also want to do local upcycling or local brands so that they can sell their product perhaps abroad because some of these brands work in fairs here, local fairs. I used to do that too. And you can show perhaps handcrafted work, which sometimes is not valued, but their customers could be not just here, but in other parts of the world as well. So we want to expand this platform even more and to include different kinds of clothes that can be given a true value and that can be affordable by any person, regardless of where they live. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. A big round of applause. Any questions? Any questions? Good morning. First, I admire the work you do, and we see that there might be an option to have a clothing line for pets. That would be wonderful, I think, right? To also um, foster adoption of pets. We can have a fashion show with pets so that they can have a recovered uh, clothing line. This is an idea that many textile entrepreneurs have had, and I think it's possible, really. Perhaps we need to um, call upon more textile entrepreneurs because we need, it's not just one dog, it's many dogs, right? I know. And it's good to be able to raise awareness about pets. The pets that you have found and that you have rescued on the beach, for example. I've been a witness to that. I know that you do that work. And sometimes a piece of clothing or perhaps a ribbon make them look better. And it's a way to incentivize adoption and to cooperate with the circular economy and other foundations or associations that are as important as this one in particular. Thank you. Okay, we would like to continue with our program. Now we're going to listen to Angeline Reyes, a student of architecture in UNAP. She's going to talk about land-based strategies and waste cartography. I'm Angeline, and I'd like to share my architecture thesis with you, talking about value chains in the distribution and commercialization of used clothing. To be able to talk about the waste landscape in Alto Hospicio. Okay, this is a timeline. In 1975, we had the birth of Zofri, the free trade area, and we had the opening of the second-hand clothing store in 1976 in Chile. In 1976, Pinochet made Chile to be one of the few countries where the import of clothing was not illegal. And then in the 2000s, there was more fast fashion, and we had more stores like Zara or H&M, and they became part of an important part of the economy here in Chile. In 2012, La Quebradilla was founded, and in 2013, the largest dump site of Alto Hospicio became even bigger. Paso de la Mula is the name. And then this became viral and exposed the environmental crisis in the region. This was 2021. And there was a massive burn down of this dump site. And the practices of burning waste continued. And this is still ongoing in 2024. And regarding the import of clothes or garments, we have sales by the kilo, and we have also sectors within the free trade area. There's classification of clothes by quality and by item, by kind of item. And we want to show the comparison between Paso La Mula in the land site, and in 2006 it was empty. And then in 2022, this dump site is 9,000 square meters, and this shows the environmental impact of used clothing trade, informal trade. And so the map I built took into account the dump site. We realized that any empty lot within the district becomes a dump site or a micro dump. And so we try to map where each micro dump is and what the difference is between them and with the population of Alto Hospicio. For example, waste doesn't go to certain areas. And so sometimes people come and they bring their waste and it's very, very expensive for them to dump their waste in the dump sites. And so they also have an international image of a waste city or a dump city. And then we try to take into account 4 strategies for our target image: the creation of gathering points close to schools, the articulation with the commercialization chain, and the recognition of the landscape of Alto Hospicio, taking into account taking into account schools and gathering centers. Perhaps we can be clear about the fact that education is key to be able to clean Alto Hospicio and then be part of the commercialization chain and also the mobility um, chain to be able to connect this with the Route 16, for example. Addressing this topic contributes to reducing contamination in our territories, and it also promotes new circular economies by recognizing waste and promoting land-based justice. This was the first step to provide dignity to the landscape and to also give value to what others consider waste. In our school, we researched this topic from a language perspective, and we had a project where on Mondays all of our classmates we asked them to give us jeans that they would no longer use, and my friends and I would make different items, duffel bags, keychains, and if we were able to fix the clothes, then we would do so. We also created, or we also fixed or redesigned clothes. And if somebody needed a piece of clothing in our school, then we would give it to them. The project also included keychains, small keychains that we would give as keepsakes. Thank you. I think education is key for us to be able to make this problem visible and also for them to be able to make a contribution to the circular economy. And so I think your initiative was very, very interesting, your initiative and your school's initiative. Do we have any questions on Zoom? Yes. This is from Priscilla Berhar. I think it would be interesting to receive not only an individual selection, but a variety of clothing in a box for us because we do upcycling. Would that be possible? Well, yes, it would be possible, but first we would need to know where you're from. We work in different cooperations. We work with artists, we work with fashion shows, and also with upcyclers or designers, whether locally or nationally. And so we give them clothing so they can do their work. And also, this adds value to their work because we are sort of a world waste site. Tons of clothing arrive to our area, and so we have many things to, or many clothes to give you. Sometimes the raw material is very good. It can be transformed, it can be reused, and so we can give these clothes or these fabrics to whoever need them. So please get in touch with us on Instagram or via email, and we can continue this cooperation.
Very interesting question. We are coming to the end of this forum. I'd like to invite a sociologist and volunteer from our organization, Fundación Reverdedesierto, to say a few words. Thank you very much. I'm going to share the documents in support of alternative strategies to address the textile issues. This is a policy paper, a document that provides inputs to bring about future public policies. The purpose of this policy paper is to propose pilot options for managing textile waste in the Tarapacá region in Chile, targeted to mitigating the impact thereof. And it also has to do with systematizing existing information on the environmental and social impacts of textile waste in the Tarapacá region. Also to formulate pilot proposals for territory-based management and public policy recommendations prioritizing prevention, appraisal, and environmental education. This is important because, as Seremi and other speakers said, we live within a culture that promotes consumption and embezzlement because forms of facilitating purchase and sale of clothes have been strategically planned. Just by clicking on your mobile phone, you can buy clothes. Before, it required a greater effort because you had to go to a shop or to a fair. Now it's more agile to buy clothes. In a few more years, we may be living in a dump. So it's important to understand that society changes. But if I implement a new public policy, I mean, things won't be too different because our behavior is a predator. All waste will end up in these dumps. So it's important to, to make sure that that uh, overconsumption will not lead us to buy things we don't need. We have to make the most of our waste to ensure that future generations and us too have a better future on this planet. I invite you to read the policy paper. Thank you very much. Paula, go ahead. I wish to thank all participants, and to conclude, I'd like to say that this document is a lot longer. It's over 15 pages long. It contains very important information, and we've drafted this in collaboration with Desierto Vestido. They've been working on this for a long time, and through the foundation and through GAIA, uh, the Global Alliance Against Incineration, well, we were able to draft this document to have more sustainable public policies. This document brings together not only the initiatives we've just talked about, but other analytical options like analysis matrices, the SWOT uh, analysis to looking at this problem overall. The document, as I said, is a lot longer for those who are interested in analyzing this issue and in doing research work. Desierto Vestido worked on this document, making great efforts through Victoria, our researcher, and I also thank Marcela Tapia, who also collaborated with us. You can download it on social media, those who would like to delve deeper into this matter. So I thank all those who participated so as to disseminate this information at the international level. Not many people are working on this, and we who are here not only represent our region and countries, but also a lot more than that. It's good to be able to disseminate this problem. There are very few people working on this, so take this information and take action too. So, with this, we conclude today's forum. Thank you all very much for your participation.